All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. I shall start today off with my best Chris Farley impersonation of, geez, I'm an idiot kind of moment. I hate to sacrifice a good quality hairdo for that reference, but we started custom combining up here and opened it up for the neighbor last night, and I kind of had a brain fart. But I seem to have spilt a little corn, so he's gonna, I called him, and he's gonna bring his loader tractor, and while he's running wagons, because I'll get ahead of him, and so while he's running wagons, I guess I'm shoveling corn. Son of a bucket anyhow, but it's working nice. It's going good. We had almost 2.5 to 3.5 inches of rain, depending who you talk to, and some 1-inch spots. It's just really kind of like how the whole last several years have been. It's just very, very isolated. But no, I mean, the ground's carrying well, and you would never even know that we had rain. And so I'm gonna finish topping the cart off, and then anything left in here, dump in my wagons, get the next piece opened up, and he'll get the tractor out here and I can start shoveling. Of course, you're right by the busy frontage road, and everybody and their brother can see it. You're like, doggone it. But it's one of them things that I think I could probably shovel it and get it into his loader in about the same time as by the time I run home, get the grain vac, come back out, hook up the tractor. I'd probably be faster just to shovel it and then just go jump in a wagon. And so, yeah. That Cat C9 is not a cold weather engine. I got my Arctic package where I wired in an extra big battery and then the inverter, so I can run a space heater up here if I want to when it gets really cold. But yeah, he just does not like being cold. So while we wait for the engine to warm up, I cycle my variable speed shifts from slow to fast, back to slow, back to my speed, and that helps work grease throughout the system, throughout that variable shift, and it adds a lot of life to them. And you got to wait for the engine to warm up anyhow, and I don't know. I always kind of wonder about that on you know, you got this whole combine, all the chains, belts, rubber bushings, and everything. Like, wouldn't it add life? That bushing, you know, you picture that rubber bushing that holds your shaker pans. If it's 10 degrees outside and now you start stroking that thing, you know, does it cycle 1,000 times a minute or 500 times a minute? You know, would it add a lot of life to the machine to let them rubber bushings kind of just at idle kind of warm that rubber up? I don't know, but it seems to be working for me. We're cold. My engine's up to temperature, and I let the corn head run for a couple minutes at idle, warm up them gearboxes. But the 8-row head. So these guys over here on the west side that I combine for, they plant 6-row, and I kind of like this 8-row head for the custom work, because on the outside with the 12-row you got your guest row around corners, and it's just, you got 6 rows being laid flat, and it's kind of a disaster. Where like here I can hang 2 rows off over the grass waterways on 3 sides of this field, and just take the 6 rows around these corners and not make a mess out of anything. And so that works a lot nicer. I do like this head for the custom work better. because even with the 12 row, there's a lot of times that I was only able to take 6 rows at a time. On this little pain in the butt field, the 12 row was nice, because even with a guest row in there, I just fought it and just took. And even if you ended up with 11 rows or 13 rows, who cares, because you only got 100 feet and then you turn around. And so that's where it made quick work out of this kind of stuff. But whoop, see there, I'm off for Pete's sakes. Can't even count to 2. Oh, is it Friday yet? Is it Friday yet? Yeah. I got the deck plates really tight, or fairly tight. Yeah, pretty tight. And so it is braking, but these heads do a really good job of not bringing in any trash. It's almost like a factory Calmer's head. You got the big sprocket out front and the small underdrive sprocket driving the chain, so it slows the chains down. And then you got the knife rolls, and you got the Colonel Saver style deck plates, where the deck plates had a rolled edge on them. And yeah, these I think they're a Capello head. They do a dang nice job. I can actually get my corn head all in one camera frame. Off camera I drive a lot faster, but on camera, well, not a lot faster. I just go like about like this. The same speed I drove when I had the 12 row head, but it starts to dirty up a little bit, but they still do a tremendously good job. You know, when you look in the mirror and you don't see much of anything coming out the back of the combine other than husks. There's not just a big cloud of stock dust behind you in the mirror. That's a good sign. I don't know. I'm talking too much about a head, I guess. It takes longer. I think I travel more turning around than I do driving across the actual combining. For you guys that have been with me for a while, you used to know my old dynamic duo was my 8820 with the 8-row head and the 4640 with my wagons. And now the dynamic duo is the Lexion with the Massey and the cart. And right before I started the channel, well, not right before, but we used to, the wife and I, our first combine was a 7700. We bought that back in like 2007, 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in there. And 7700 turbo gear shift with the rotary screen on the side. It was a low hour machine, 2-wheel drive. It didn't have the hydrostatic rear wheel. Well, because it was a gear shift. But yeah, we had an 18-foot, no, a 16. I had a 216 bean head for it. In fact, one of the neighbors, one of the older neighbor gentlemen, still has the bean head. And yep, that gear shift, Karen would have a pile of pillows here, and she'd ride with me when we'd open up a bean field. And when we got to the corner, she had to jump out, because then you had your gear stick here, that for me to move my arm enough to go into reverse, I kind of had to lean over and take up her spot. So we would come into the corner, she'd jump out, I'd back up, take another cut, and then back up, and then I could make the swing. And then once I made the swing, then she'd hop back in and we'd go to the next corner. I remember being so excited that first year I got that combine home. It was a nice looking machine. It was clean, low, like 2,000 hours. I mean, it was a really nice machine. And I was so excited when I got that first year. We had the 18-acre piece across the road from the farm, and I'm like, yeah, you know how you start beans, you know, mid-morning, like 11 o'clock or so, you finally get going on beans. And I told the wife, like, yeah, I'm gonna go out, you know, at 11 o'clock, and in a couple hours I'll have the wagons filled up and run them over to the neighbors and unload them. And at that time, my gravity wagons were a couple gravity wagons that we pulled out of the weeds. They were the old fertilizer wagons for my uncle. And so you had to have a roll of duct tape and a pry bar with you. You needed a duct tape to patch any holes that occurred throughout the day. And there are a couple old Minnesota 250s. And then you had to have the pry bar to help get the door started opening, because the wheel couldn't open the door. And for Pete's sakes, yep. Then yeah, oh boy. And so I started on that soybean field and wiped off the headland, and now you got a hopper full already, you know, or close to it. So then you dump, so then you can go down and do the other headland kind of deal. And oh boy, this is gonna go awesome. And it went very well. You just got nothing done. It just, oh my gosh. And so I wiped the headland off, and I was so excited, and like, yeah, and I'll have these wagons full in a few minutes, and then I'll go empty them. And shoot, I think it was, you know, 7 o'clock I finished that 18. It took like 5 or 6 hours to do that 18-acre field. And you're just like, okay. And I remember my uncle's combine in 2010 broke down, and I still had that 7700. Actually did a little custom combining with it, believe it or not. And my uncle's combine was broke down, and it was in the yard. And I said, well, I'll just go, you know, you just leave your stuff out there, and I'll just go combine and fill stuff up for you with mine. And he kind of laughed, and he said, you know, thank you, but that's quite all right, because for what you could do in 2 days with that combine, if I got this combine running tonight, you know, the minute I get this big combine going, in 2 hours I'll have what you would have had in 2 days. And so he's like, you really wouldn't have been saving me a whole lot, but I appreciate the offer. And I'm like, well, that's true. That's true. I'm trying to cut low, which means any little bit that I'm off, and it really, well, you guys know, yeah, 7700. We had a 4-row narrow corn head for it, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And boy, I'll tell you, that thing in corn was just a monster. That combine in corn, you had a lot of horsepower for that 4-row head. You had a lot of combine for a 4-row head. Oh boy, that thing you got going. And I remember combining for my buddy up there. He come in. He had about 6 miles to haul to the elevator, to where he was having corn dried, and he had an old 856 or whatever that he was hauling with, where it had the good fast road gear, and he come in. We filled him up, and he took off across that field. I'm like, holy crap, Harold! And he took off across that field. And I thought, well, cripes, the way this thing is eating corn, I'll have all these wagons filled before he gets back. I barely had one wagon filled, and he come flying across the field just as I was getting topped off. So we unloaded on the go until from one end to the other until he was full, and then he just took off again. Didn't even pull the pin, and I just kept filling the wagons, and he just kept flying in and catching me once in a while, and that worked pretty good. That worked pretty good. He had a bean field one year that went up with that 7700 to combine beans, and we looked at the field and we're just like, oh boy, you know, you just give me one wagon here, because there ain't going to be much beans here. They're barely tall enough to get onto the cutter bar. And I started opening that field. Well, as soon as I got up over the hill, that thing turned into a beast of a soybean field. And that was probably the first time I ever combined 40 bushel soybeans. And I called him. I didn't get very far around that field, and I called him and I said, boy, you better have your dad go rustle up some wagons from somebody, because this wagon's going to be full long before I even get all the way around the field. And yeah, that was pretty good. Well, we're close to full. The wife is here. She's going to take my water jug. I need a little bit of water to top off my coolant reservoir, and then she's gonna go get some shovels and help when Gary gets out here with his tractor. She's gonna help shovel that up. So I scooped up a bunch of the corn, and now Karen, she can work with the vacuum there and get that corn out of that grass. I didn't want to be shoveling a bunch of stover and grass in. Hey, there's 2 churches right up the road here. How embarrassing on a Sunday morning. All them farmers driving by and all that traffic. Oh, jeez. It's hard to find good help, ain't it?